Hello, my name is Ethan Ortiz. I'm the founder of HereYouGo LLC. In this video, I'll be showing you how to query the Integrated Cyber Defense Exchange. In this tutorial, I'll be covering these topics using Postman as an API client. If you're new to Postman, please see my video, Introduction to Postman. Click the link above to familiarize yourself with how Postman works. But before we jump to the Postman client, we need to obtain the key to access ICDX data. Let's move over to the ICDX console so I can walk through the steps to get the key. I'll log in. This is a lab environment, so we won't see much data here. But you'll go over to Settings, API Keys, and then under ICDX API Keys, you will retrieve this particular key here. Do not concern yourself with the API keys for actions just yet. That'll be in a future video. So we'll go over to the Postman key that I've created, and I will do a copy API key to clipboard. Make sure you copy this one using this click, not the other two. This will make it ready to go for Postman. Next, I'll go over what we do with that API key in Postman to enable our request to work. I set up a generic query here that just does a very basic search against ICDX, but I'm just using this to highlight how to use the key. So you'll need to create a header with a key of authorization, and then you'll want to put the word basic with a capital B and put your ICDX API key here. As you can see, I'm not pasting in that long string from the ICDX console clipboard. I'm actually referencing a Postman environment up here. So if we take a look in the ICDX Postman environment and go to ICDX API Key, and we can paste our key in there, and when we hover over this, that'll give us the key reference. It's basically referencing whatever is in there. So if I hit send, it'll send that header with the authorization key, and it'll send this HTTP body JSON, which ICDX understands as a request to retrieve archives. But there you go. That's as simple as it gets on how to create a request for ICDX. Next, we'll step through all the different requests. Once you start making API calls, you'll quickly realize that the responses tend to use codes instead of English descriptions. So how do we translate those codes to understand what they mean? For example, if I make a request and receive a type ID 8040, how do I know what that means? The ICDX schema will help you there. So here's how to download it via an API call. Start at the top. We'll go to Schema Extras. I'm going to start with number one here, get event schema.json, and I've highlighted that there's no authorization required to retrieve this JSON file. So if we look at the headers, we don't have any authorization headers. So let's go ahead and hit send, and we retrieve this 215 kilobyte file that contains information on the ICDX schema. But it's still pretty numeric, not enough English to help in translation. So next we have this next request with the EN added at the end of the event schema. That'll trigger a different request, and here we have now all the different attributes and their information. So that 8040 code, just quickly look up 8040 here. That is a host network detection. So that might help you in your translation in your external application. So it's very easy to find those different values in here. Okay, hopefully that'll speed things up for you in translation. If you're new to ICDX queries, you'll probably want to limit your searches to specific archives to avoid large data retrievals unnecessarily. Here's how to query for the archives via the API. Let's move over to archives, and let's get the list of available archives. Quickly take a look at the body. You can see it's an ID 12. We have the authorization header and the content type JSON, and let's go ahead and hit send. Here we have the different archives available for us to query, to do filters on, so we don't have to retrieve all the data from all the archives in our subsequent requests. Make note of that URL. Now, let's say you want to retrieve the index fields within those data collections. Let's go ahead and do a ID 10. Just to contrast, that was an ID 12, just to get the archives, and then to get the indexes within that archive, in this case system, I just do an ID 10, and I can retrieve the index fields. Now remember, you had these other archives with their own UUIDs. So here, let's take a look at one of those examples. Okay, ID 10, but I want to retrieve the index fields within that archive. You can hit send, and there you have it. This one just happens to have one extra field there that I've noticed just right there real quickly. So yeah, that should help you out with querying all the archives that are there. If you're interested in getting log counts, maybe to visualize them in a separate system, here's how you do it. Switching back to Postman, we'll go under counting logs, and let's go to query number 6 here, counting events per day for the last 7 days. So there's the URL, same authorization key, but our HTTP body looks slightly different. So we can specify that we want to look at the last 7 days, and this can be M, H, D. So you can take a look at the documentation for the letters supported there, but and their capitalization. But their end time, I used a Postman variable that I'm referencing from here. So I'm actually setting up a pre-request, and again, take a look at my video on this, just to grab the current time. And so it's basically starting 7 days ago until right now. The time field is I'm gonna leverage the log_time field, and I want a count per day. You can very easily make this a count per minute, but that's a lot of minutes in 7 days. So we'll just do 7 days worth. And I only want to return a specific field, like feature name. But let's not do that. Let's just remove it and do a send, and we get a count for that particular day. How many events did we have for those days? This could be pretty useful for visualizing on a secondary data visualization platform that you can slice and dice the data on. So very quickly, let's go ahead and make some changes here. Let's make this 60 minutes and then one minute time interval. And as you can see here, you'll have 60 entries. Simple, right? And keep an eye out for the ID, for the counts. So the next request, I'm going to count the events, but I'm going to add this this field feature name. So now it's going to count, in this case, the last 5 minutes in 1 minute interval for the feature name. So I have 2 syslogs, 2 events in syslog, 1 event in identity service. Let's see what else I got in there. Not much else. Again, this is a lab environment, but this will break down the different features. So let's say you wanted to count by user. So we can field, and then there's add the field username, and hit send, and we'll have the one user that's really chatty on here, which is me. Let's actually try something that should have more data. Device IP. Let's see. Cool. And then if we want to expand that even further, again, by changing the start time, let's do the last 5 days, and let's do in hour increments. There you go. So those are IP counts by hour for the last 5 days, and only for the IPs, right? Because we specified this field's object in this JSON. It's pretty straightforward. All right, let's go over to request number 8, counting events, summing a specific field. And as you can see here, it's an ID 3. I am most interested in device IP, and basically I want 1 day's worth count, and I only want to retrieve information, or the count, for system and default archives, not the other 2. And that's it. Pretty straightforward. So let's move over to the search logs. and go to number 9, search with where, and you'll see that the URL is the same, but the body has changed. So you have an ID1 start, basically -7 days till now, and I have a where statement. There's the syntax for it, where I have feature name equal malware protection, or feature name equal network IPS, and username equals administrator. Again, this is populated from the Postman environment. That's what those little brackets signify. And I'm restricting the query to the set manager collector. So let's take a look at that. Hit send, and there you go. I have username administrator and information on that particular event. In this case, it seems to be not many events in there. So let's move on to the next one. So let's search for the filter and pagination, which you'll need if you have massive amounts of data, and maybe you have a web application you want to use to scrape information off of here, so you'll need pagination, right? So ID1, just same as before. Here's where you limit how many items you retrieve at a time. So let's change that to 10 items at a time. We're going to start from, I'm going to do 30 days ago just because I don't have that much data, but in your case you'll limit that to maybe minutes or just hours. And then you have a where statement where device name equals device name, again reference from the Postman collection, limited to the set manager collector. Let's go ahead and click that, and if we go to the bottom, all the way at the bottom, come on, okay, there you go, and grab this next, go back up, and I can add it right here, so I can retrieve the next set of logs. And that's it. That's how you paginate through ICDX. Now this is a 9. You can quickly just remember that. And if I go all the way to the bottom here, we'll see that the next one ends in 13. So you can just keep paginating to the next set of 10. So that's it for that one. Let me close that one and close that one. Let's move on to 11. And 11, we have quite a few things here. So we have the usual one. We're going to limit it to 100, 6 hours ago, where type ID equals 8031. Remember, you can look up what an 8031 is in the ICDX Schema English. We're going to limit it to the set manager collector, but we're going to filter. I'm filtering out these machines. These are my kids' machines. They're my beta testers. So I got gonna take Juggernaut out, Playhouse, and I want anything that doesn't have this particular SHA-256. And here I'm adding the fields entry, which I can specify what I get back from ICDX. I don't want a very large JSON object. I just want an object for one object for each event with these values in it. So I'll hit send, and what I get back is one entry. If we can take a look at those at the same time. There you go. So device name, OS, product name, and actor. And that's it. Those are the available entries. So these are the ones I specified, these are the ones that were available, and it returned them to me. In this manner, you can control how much information you want to get, or how little. Okay, so that's pretty cool. Let's move on to number 12. And in this one is to retrieve one single event. So let's say you retrieved an event this way, and you got quite a lot of information, or a huge count of events for Vault 22, let's say. But you have the smaller version of the event, but now you want to retrieve all of the information. So you can go over here, do an ID 0, specify UUID, and you can get back all the details on that event. So as you can see, that this is one event. It's rather large, so this would be good. These are good complementary queries, so that this one can retrieve a lot of individual machine details without all the heavy verbose details. And then once you find something interesting, you can dig deeper and retrieve the logs for that particular machine, the log details for that particular machine. So hopefully that's beneficial to you. Next we'll cover category searching. So we'll move back to Postman, go to the category searches. This is just to quickly point out that if you change the ID category ID here under the where, you'll get very different logs. And you see this in the ICDX schema, where category ID 1 are security logs, a category ID of 3 are application activity logs. Category ID 4 could be very useful to keep track of this one, because this one has the logins to the ICDX console. So it might be a good idea to query this one every now and then for failed logins. So yeah, like for example right there, there's a failed login of ICDX admin. So it might be good to find out if somebody's attempting to log into the ICDX console too many times with a bad password. And then system activity is category ID 5. And there you have it. Hopefully that's useful for you. And a lot of the similar filters and start times and end times that we covered already are covered here, or work here as well. Next, would you like to know how to obtain status information for a collector or forwarder? How about the ability to start or stop or restart that collector or forwarder? So here's how you do it. Let's go over to the ICDX collector forwarder status checks. Let's start with collectors. Okay, so we'll quickly look over the common event collector. There you go, giving you a count of messages. That could also be useful for some kind of graphing. I'm only going to cover this one and this one because they're the ones I actually have data flowing into. So here we go. Let's run this one as well. And there's our UUID. If you rewind and take a look at the archives, that'll match up. Again, then the count of logs. Pretty cool, right? So let's move on to the second part. Actually, let me quickly cover this one. Elasticsearch forwarder, same thing. So you can do it both on collectors and forwarders. All right, so that's fun. Now let's take a look at getting those running services, the collectors and forwarders. And here you have information on where those forwarders are and those collectors are, and their process ID, which will be really useful once you actually want to stop or restart these services. So you can see here that the set manager collector is running. You can tell right there the COL DX. Okay, and let's say I want to get information on that particular one. I got information on it. It's running, and this is how you do it. You send an HTTP body JSON object with ID equals 4 and the process ID. So you need the process ID, and that's why this one is so important to get running, because it gives you the process ID. Now let's say you want to stop this set manager Commonwealth server collector. Let's go over to stop. Let's take a look at the body. You can see it's an ID 12, so that's different. And then you specify the path, which we collected, and a UUID, which we also collected. And I collected that. Probably should. Let me go ahead and stop, and then I'll show you how I collected that. All right, so I got a 202 accepted. So that set manager collector is now off. But actually, I collected it over here. I did a little postman magic, where once these results came back, I collected the collector UUID, path, and PID, and placed them inside of here in the ICDX postman collection. Now let's run that again, and if we look in there, we will not find the set manager collector anymore because it is shut down. So let's start it back up. So start the set manager. Now for this, we don't need a PID, we just need the UUID, because obviously the process is down. So we just need the UUID, the path to that set manager process path, and an ID 10. Hit send, and 202 accepted. So let's go back to get running services and see if it's actually running. And lo and behold, there it is. And you can do the same with the Elasticsearch or any other collectors and forwarders that you may be using. Hopefully you found this video tutorial useful. Please leave your comments. Please let me know if you like this, so I know whether I should make the other ICDX videos. I really hope you do, because I enjoy making them. I'll see you the next time.